Hi everybody. For this video, I'm going to be talking about the band Chicago and showing my Chicago vinyl collection, but I'm only going to be showing the Terry Kath years. I don't have anything after Chicago 11, none of that bullshit, 80s, Peter Cetera, power ballad, garbage. This is just going to be the stuff with Terry Kath before his untimely passing in, I think it was 1977. If I'm not mistaken. Anyway, Chicago to most people represents the wimpy power ballad. They immediately think of Peter Cetera and, the songs like You're the Inspiration, Hard Habit to Break, Along Comes a Woman, all that kind of 80s, just real soft rock, power ballad stuff. And it's really not representative of Chicago, especially their early work with Terry Kath. Terry Kath was arguably one of the greatest guitarists of the late 60s and early 70s. As a matter of fact, Jimi Hendrix considered him even a better guitarist than he was. And coming from Jimi Hendrix, who had quite an ego, that's very high praise. So Chicago, you need to put all your prejudices aside, everything that you think you know about Chicago. And really, if you haven't checked out Chicago's early stuff, do yourself a favor and pick up even just their first couple of albums. Those are definitely the best, at least as far as I'm concerned, best Chicago albums. Now, the first album is Chicago Transit Authority, and actually they were known as Chicago Transit Authority for this album, so technically it was a self-titled album. And this was released in 1969. It's a double album. And it's got the gatefold there. And this was issued on the beautiful classic Columbia label. I'm not going to show both discs, but this, for my money, if I could only own one Chicago album, it would be this one. There is so many great songs on here. You've got Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is? One of the first Chicago songs that I ever remember hearing. It's got Beginnings, which is such a fantastic album. Robert Lamb really was such a great songwriter, and so many of these songs really were his compositions. Question 67 and 68 is great. Poem 68 is such a fantastic, just instrumental guitar workout. Terry Kath at some of his best. There's actually a track called Freeform Guitar. And it's just four sides of really awesome late 60s hard rock with you got the brass and the hard electric guitar. Danny Seraphin was an incredible drummer. I know he got fired from the band in the late 80s, but just his early work with Chicago is really impeccable. And so for this album, it's really just such a showcase. Considering this is their debut album and it was a double album, I mean, how ballsy is that? The fact that, they were so confident in their material and their musicianship that they came out with a double album right out of the gate. And if that wasn't enough, their second album, which is technically just called Chicago, although some people refer to it as Chicago 2, is also a double album. And it's equally as fantastic. And this is no pictures here on the gatefold. This is not on the classic Columbia label, but and I think the sleeves on this are so yellowed with age. I gotta believe it's the original sleeves, but nonetheless, there's no pictures or anything on it, so I don't know. But just great stuff. You got for me, the highlight of this album is the ballet for A Girl in Buchanan. which has got Make Me Smile. It's got West Virginia Fantasies, Color My World. And then it kind of reprises Make Me Smile at the end. Just some fantastic stuff. Moving In, The Road, just a great way to start off the album. Now More Than Ever is the end of the ballet, but just the whole second side is almost taken up with that whole suite. It's just so strong. The playing on it, the ensemble playing, just the singing. Again, Terry Kath shines all the way through this album. This has got 25 or 6 to 4 on it, one of Chicago's greatest songs. But just, again, another solid double album. And this was released in 1970. So, I mean, talk about prolific. And then this, actually, and I apologize. I think I might be getting, was this 71 or 70? I don't remember. But at any rate, this was their third album, and it was also a double album. No other band in the history of rock and roll has come out, the first 3 albums, all double albums. Just amazing. This one, not as great as the first 2, and could you really blame them? I mean, how could they possibly keep up that level of excellence over the span of, basically 6 records in 3 years' time? This has got some decent tracks on it. Sing a Mean Tune Kid is on here. I'll show you the gatefold, which has got the track listing, and then there's also a poem which is recited here. It's called When All the Laughter Dies in Sorrow. Loneliness is just a word I love off this album. They've got a couple of suites here. The Travel Suite with Flight 602, Motorboat to Mars. Free was a great song off this album. Happy Because I'm Going Home is great. Lowdown is a great song. And then there's An Hour in the Shower, which is a Terry Kath kind of suite that he composed, which is sort of a day in the life almost. And then the side 4 is a little bit more reflective. You've got, like I said, the poem When All the Laughter Dies in Sorrow. Canon, which is a little bit subdued. Things pick up a little bit with Once Upon a Time. And then The Approaching Storm and Man vs. Man, the end. So it's not a bad album. It's just, nothing was going to compare to the first album and then the second Chicago album. But still, I got a real soft spot for this album. This one is definitely just a real quality album, although not many people would recognize the material off of there. And then this is actually quite a beast of a live album. This is Chicago live at Carnegie Hall, and it is 4 records. So you've got Chicago Transit Authority double album, the second Chicago album double album, Chicago 3 a double album, and then let's just do a 4 album box set live quadruple album as Chicago. This technically is Chicago 4. And I know the band has never been, some of the band members, I think there's some decisiveness in terms of how the band feels about this album. A few of them feel that the acoustics, just the whole Carnegie Hall is not maybe the best place to put on a rock concert, but it's still the only live Chicago, officially released live Chicago album from this period that exists as such. And there's such, obviously with 4 albums, there's a wealth of material on here. But all the hits, does anybody really know what time it is? Kind of got the freeform piano intro and then the regular track. This has got Beginning, Sing a Mean Tune Kid from the 3rd album. It Better End Soon, a couple of different movements, the whole suite from that. It has Mother and Lowdown from the 3rd album, Flight 602, Motorboat to Mars, Free. So quite a few tracks from the 3rd Chicago album, which was the latest album in the Chicago discography when this album came out. And in terms of the packaging with this, there's a booklet which has photographs of the band collectively and individually. Terry Kath, Peter Cetera, Robert Lamb, and I'm just going to be honest, the other band members' names I couldn't tell you, which, no disrespect, I mean, they're all great, but this is Danny Seraphin, the drummer. I do know that. And then there's actually a humongous poster that comes with, like, an enormous poster that comes with this. Like, holy crap. And this, okay, this isn't even, like, I've not even folded this out all the way. It's almost like a comforter for a bed. Seriously, that's how large this poster is. I can't even show it. It's so freaking enormous. And I have no idea, like, who would have the space for this gigantic beast of a poster on their wall? Oh my God. All right, I'm gonna have to refold that later, but you just get the idea how ginormous. That has to be the largest poster ever given away with an album. And that's not the only, there's another poster here still, a poster of Carnegie Hall. I'm not sure who would want Carnegie Hall on their wall, but nonetheless, if you're somebody who does, there's that. So really, a deluxe album packaging for sure. And it's a fair live album. It's not great, but it's still, really the only document that is available. I mean, I know there's other live stuff that's been released on CD, but as far as at the time on vinyl, that was the only live Chicago album that was available. So now we're on to Chicago 5, and this still has a kind of a hype sticker on it, although it's not in the shrink wrap. So somebody, I don't know if this was I don't know. Anyway, but kind of a pointless gatefold. I mean, Chicago is known for their gatefolds, but that one, it just seems kind of pointless. And I love the fact that Chicago has a different theme for each of their albums. This obviously is some kind of wood paneled theme going on here. This actually has the very first, this is what the inner sleeve looks like. One of the very first songs that I remember hearing as a child was Saturday in the Park. So that's the big hit off of here. A Hit by VIII is the first track off this album. It's just fantastic. It just sounds so progressive, and I just love the rhythm of it. Everything is just great about it. And Dialogue is on here, which is a great track. And Alma Mater is on here. And I think that's the only real big, I don't know, radio hits or whatever. This has got a custom label on it. And I still love Saturday in the Park. I love the hell out of that album. And it's not just purely nostalgic. It's a great, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's a great power rock song or whatever. I love that track. And then Chicago 6, also with the hype sticker there, not in the shrink either. And this one, actually, it's the theme is kind of like a dollar bill or a bill theme, and the texture of it actually feels like a dollar bill. It's really cool the way that they do that. It's a gatefold, although each side is exactly the same. Although inside you've got a group photograph. This starts off with Critics' Choice. I love that song. It's just a very understated, it's just piano and Robert Lamb, but it's like a song directed at the critics, like, get off our back, you know, give us a break. Because I know the first couple of Chicago albums, particularly Chicago 3, had not been well received by the critics. And same with the Carnegie Hall album. So they were taking a lot of crap, a lot of flack from the critics. And so they answered that. Chicago 5 also, I don't think, was very well received. And so this was just kind of a, you know, lashing out at the critics. Like, what do you want? What do you want from us? We're trying over here. Like, we're giving our sweat blood. You know, like, we're passionate about this. This isn't just some, you know, assembly line that we're producing here. Just You and Me is fantastic. One of my favorite Chicago songs. Something in the City Changes People is great. Hollywood's good. You know, just a solid album. And their second album that was not a double. So they were getting into more concise album formats at that point, but you know, still solid all the way. That was also recorded at the Caribou Ranch, which with James Guercio. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but nonetheless, they had a string of albums that they produced at the Caribou Ranch, which is the same place that Elton John recorded his Caribou album at. And then they returned to the double album format with Chicago 7. And for this one, the first album is all jazzy instrumental stuff. I think there was some, you know, one faction of the band wanted to just do, you know, kind of the more concise rock and pop stuff, and the other part of the band wanted to get back to their jazz roots. So they kind of compromised, and the first album is all jazzy stuff, and the second album is more shorter, concise pop rock songs. This is the gatefold, and the inner sleeves here have credits. And then again, there is a custom label. I don't think I showed the Chicago 6 custom label, so I apologize about that. But this also has some of my favorite Chicago songs on it. This has Wishing You Were Here. It's got Call on Me, which is fantastic. I'm not a huge fan of the jazz side. I mean, it's okay. Obviously, they're competent musicians. They're more than that. I mean, they're great musicians. But you know, for me, I much prefer the second disc here. And Happy Man is also on here, which is great. Biblos, I don't know if that's how you call it, but that's a great Terry Kath composition from him. So, you know, I'm glad to have as much Chicago from this period as possible, and the more Terry Kath, the better, obviously. And then Chicago 8, which has also got some fantastic stuff on here. And I don't know why the front side is always like the back side. I don't know why they couldn't get more creative with the back side of their albums. This comes with a poster. It's just the album cover. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's the gatefold. Sorry. it's not, not even the gatefold, because there's not a gatefold, but I almost imagine that if there had been a gatefold, that's what it would look like. And for me, the highlights on here are Any Way You Want is a great driving rocker to start off with. Brand New Love Affair, it starts off slow, but then the tempo kind of picks up and it starts to rock quite a bit. There's part 1 and part 2, although on CD, I think they're just sequenced as one track. Hideaway is one of the hardest rocking songs that Chicago ever put out. I would put that up against any hard rock song from the 70s. Harry Truman, which is kind of a nostalgic ballad. It's okay, kind of a piano-driven rocker. And then Old Days is probably the most popular, most recognizable track off of here. But this is the inner sleeve. Again, like I don't get the artwork on here. So we have this is the inner sleeve, and then the front and the back. Just the, you know, the lack of imagination on here, I'm kind of disappointed with. And I'm not sure why this didn't have a gatefold, because this poster could have actually functioned as a gatefold, but this is actually the first Chicago album that didn't have a gatefold. So I'm not sure why that was, but you know, again, another solid incidentally, this Chicago video is brought to you by New Belgium Triple Ale. And then technically what functions as Chicago 9 is their greatest hits album. One of the most solid greatest hits album that you will ever find. This is still in the shrink wrap, but this has got to be one of my favorite greatest hits albums. It's got a custom label. So we've got side 1, 25 or 64, fantastic. Feeling Stronger Every Day, excellent. Does anybody really know what time it is? Saturday in the Park, Color My World, Just You and Me. I mean, flawless. And some greatest hits, there's, you know, the track here or there that is filler. Every track on here is amazing. Side 2, Make Me Smile, Beginnings, Wishing You Were Here, I've Been Searching So Long, which was also on Chicago 7, the double album. And Call on Me, every single, like, flawless. I love the hell out of this. So just a really great album. This has got an inner sleeve here, which is just a replica from the back cover, and then it's just got some album credits here. And I grew, like, I didn't like Chicago, even though I like the song Saturday in the Park, but for whatever reason, just there's music turned me off until I was in my, like, 30s, actually, and then I started to appreciate it for what it was. I guess I'd heard too much of Chicago on the radio. I wasn't a big horns and rock and roll, other than, you know, I liked Got to Get You Into My Life by the Beatles, but you know, it took me a while before I started to appreciate Chicago, and now I love Chicago. Chicago 10, the famous chocolate bar cover. And then kind of a silly gatefold there. This has got a lyric sheet with it, and then it's also got a inner sleeve. And then, of course, the custom label. I kind of get hungry just looking at this album packaging, actually. So this one has got you know, the people refer to this as kind of like the first Chicago sellout power ballad, If You Leave Me Now, on it. Not my favorite Chicago album, and I know, you know, Terry Kath was very cognizant of the fact that, you know, we're really selling out with this, but, you know, this isn't one of my favorites. I don't mind If You Leave Me Now. Another Rainy Day in New York City is pretty cool, but the rest of it, I just need to spend, I think, a little more time with it, because you know, I haven't listened to this one as much as I've listened to some of the other Chicago hits, or the other Chicago albums, I should say. And then the final Chicago album, Chicago 11, with Terry Kath. And for those of you that don't know, the story with Terry Kath was he was a big gun owner, and he was cleaning his guns. He'd been drinking, I believe, and he was with one of his road managers, and the road manager was like, hey, Terry, maybe you don't want to be drinking and cleaning your guns. It's probably a bad combination. And Terry knew the gun wasn't loaded. He showed him it wasn't loaded, but what he didn't realize was there was still a bullet in the chamber, and he went and put it to his head, and he said, see, look, it's not loaded. And he pulled the trigger, and forgetting that there was one in the chamber, unfortunately shot himself in the head and passed away. But this was the last album before that tragic event. And for my money, the best songs on here, this is, again, another kind of a artsy, silly gatefold. My favorite stuff on here, I love Mississippi Delta Blues, which was a song Terry Kath had written several years before. Baby What a Big Surprise was a radio hit, which, you know, I'm fine with that. Taking It On Uptown, I believe was supposed to be for a proposed Terry Kath solo album. Just a great driving electric guitar based rocker. Love the heck out of that. The rest of it is okay, kind of uneven, not the most solid album, but just for those tracks alone, this album is worth owning. Another custom sleeve, and got lyrics here. And so that is my Chicago collection. And thanks for watching. Thanks for indulging my Chicago love there. I got to go unfold that Carnegie Hall poster, but thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking if you enjoyed the video, and take care.